What's up, guys? Mike here of Cult Creators, and today I want to talk about a big part of how we build for the cult creator model, right? Because the biggest thing, one of the biggest frustrations, I'd say, is that the cost to acquire customers is so high, and the cost to replace them, they say, is 5 times higher. And so there's nothing more frustrating than having clients, having customers come in, and then they just do nothing, right? They pay, they check the box, and then they just proceed to do nothing. Maybe they'll start for a few days, but they never actually continue long enough to get results, right? So then there's no referrals, there's no testimonials, there's no, without those testimonials, then it's harder to market and have lifeblood for new people to come in. And so it really does start right at the beginning, right? That emotional peak after you lay the credit card down and you make that commitment, right? That is the moment we strike. That's what we say, that's when cult leaders really pick up the ball and run with it. Whereas most of the people we've worked with, they have that mentality of like, they got the sale. It's like, okay, back to pushing more products, finding more customers. But a good cult leader really takes that as that is the moment to indoctrinate them into what we're doing here. So let's talk about how we indoctrinate so that we actually get results, referrals, testimonials, and all the good stuff so that you can be the leader of your own customer cult. Okay, so this right here is the 9-part cult creator model. So this first section, this is how we invite people in. The last section, this is how we get them to drink the Kool-Aid. So they pay, they stay, they tell their friends, and they feel that sense of meaning and belonging that is super good for business. But this middle section right here, this is how we build the products, because we are not in the information age anymore. As we say, you cannot change a life with a PDF. It's all about having an experience with like-minded people on a mission together. I mean, that is what creates buy-in. And so that is how we turn, regular communities into customer cults. So what we're going to talk about right here is indoctrination systems. So really there's 3 things that we're trying to do here, right? Because fuck onboarding. Onboarding is just like, hey, here's your username and here's your password. Like, let's go. It's kind of bullshit, but that is step 1, right? That's obvious. You still have to give them access. That's bar none. You have to remove as much friction as you possibly can to get them started, because it'll just get drowned out in their email inbox, drowned out by all of the annoyances of them having, kids, jobs, responsibilities, like all these things coming out in their face. So you have to get it as soon as you possibly can, remove all of the friction other than OTOs and order bumps and other ways to get money. But you have to make it as seamless as you possibly can to give them access into the back end. That's step 1. Then the second parts are how we indoctrinate. The 2 pieces to indoctrination: the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for anxiety, and anticipation. And so let's get into those. So the core of indoctrination and the core of the cult creator model in general, and this is the number one thing that people say is like what made the big difference for their business, is the identity shift. Your product has to be an identity shift. And so what we're doing here is we are working with creators, the people who put out their own products and have their own systems and methods, right? The people who actually want to help people with their own products, the people who create. We want to help them become cult leaders of their own cults, right? And so the number one thing you have to do is you have to brainwash them into this new identity. And so because we know all of behaviors stem from identity, then we have to give a new identity and we have to teach them what that identity means and does, right? So not only get them access and get them started, but we have to immediately take that moment and start to indoctrinate them on this is who we are, this is what we do. And so you can see step 1 is a manifesto. That's why we spend so much time on the front end thinking about what our beliefs are, what our values are, what our philosophy is, so that we can create propaganda on the front end to invite them in. And then as soon as they're in, then we build this manifesto, this piece of writing that is emotionally charged, that teaches them this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we do not do, and never will do and never will be, right? It puts that line in the sand that says, this is where we're going. This is how we see the world. This is how we want to see the world. This is what we're fighting for and fighting against. And so it's really used to bring emotion, because emotion equals action, right? But it also starts to teach them the beliefs and behaviors of what it is that we expect from them. Number 2 is the desired result, right? And this is something that everybody has. It's just never done well, right? It's never really done in a way that they can see exactly the moment they hit it. And this is usually what takes us the most amount of time when we're doing these playbooks for people to help them create these is, how do you make this so suspiciously specific that they can understand the exact moment that they hit it and have gotten success in this program? And so that is a huge piece, because we reverse engineer the whole journey from here, right from the beginning, because they have to know, like that game of life, they have to know where they're starting, where they're going, and how we're going to get there. So if you don't have that, anxiety, the amygdala is like, well, what are we doing here? And if there's any confusion, right, the confused mind doesn't buy, but the confused mind doesn't take action. We need action. So really mapping out that desired result, reverse engineering, and showing them the plan. Number 3 is that grand vision, right? So we take that manifesto and we're like, this is what we're doing. Then we show the desired result to say, this is where we're going. And then we take this grand vision to get them to write it in their own words, because we have this vision for themselves, right? For that desired result, when we're telling people that, make a K a day with your customer call. I want to hear that in your own words. I want you to write it down and actually have on paper that you can stick right to your screen to show, this is where we're going in my own words. What will life look like at that point, right? Making a K a day. Then it's like, well, what are you driving? Where are you living, right? What does your day-to-day look like? Who are you helping? How many people will it take you to get to a K a day? Is it 100 people at $99 a month? Is it 2 people at $5K a month, right? And so it's having that specificity that they can start to see it so clearly in their mind for themselves. So now it's not us telling them what's going to happen. It's them telling themselves what's going to happen, which just really increases their ability to get started and get excited about getting started, and more action, more action, more action. 4th and final is the rules and rituals, right? So once they can see the road ahead, they know who we are, what we're doing, where we're going, this frame of orientation, as we say, then it's the rules and rituals. Like, everything has rules and rituals. I was making the bed. I was like, there's rules to making this bed, how the covers are folded and shit, right? Even the ritual of making the bed, it like goes hand in hand with brushing your teeth and starting the day. Everything has rules and rituals. Every city has rules and rituals. Every country, when we joined Fanshawe Cross Country, there was a set of rules and rituals you had to do to become a Fanshawe Falcon, with the desired result of being on the podium in BCF finals, right? And so the rules and rituals just help to create the guardrails to say, this is what we do, this is what we don't do, do not do that. With funk, it's like, we don't drink alcohol, we don't eat estrogenic foods. The rituals are like, well, what do we have to do to get there? And so once they understand the confines of what's expected for them, and then the rituals of what they need to do, then they can easily start to go through and get started on the journey, right? Then we hit step 1. Then we hit whatever step 1 is of your journey. All of this comes before that. So let me show you what we did for the Renegade Brotherhood. So we partnered with Jay to help him create his low ticket membership, because he's tired of having just high ticket, right? The stress of just having these ups and downs, but something more consistent to have a bunch of people paying low ticket. Also, we noticed his audience had like 50% of people were making less than $70,000 a year who couldn't afford him anyway. So it's just opening up that second half of his market. But here's what we did. So really starts with the about, right? A welcome. It's kind of like what they expect. What are we doing here? Like a welcome for, the community is a place for men who are tired of playing small to come together and follow along a strength workout program together. And so it's just a little bit of always have a video, because it shows face. When they see you talking, then there's mirror hormones, mirror chemicals that happen in the brain, right? And so their brain, your brain, and then you start to create this resonance, this connection, this, chemical connection at scale. And so video allows us to do that at scale. We don't have to be face to face. We can just do it in front of our computer. Anybody who sees it will still trigger these things. So videos. But have a welcome, right? So just some sort of welcome to the hood. And then a story is super, super powerful, because they understand the almost mythology behind it. Every good cult has some mythology of why it exists. What is the vision of what we're doing here? What did we have to go through to even get there? And so like, not only is it this mythology, but it also shows them almost like the timeline of the whole thing and where they are at in it. Super powerful also for those bonding chemicals that allow you to be a good cult leader and them to respect you. Then we got obviously we got some rules and rituals. So you're here for the community and camaraderie. Here's the rules, right? Doing less better. Expected to check the box on just 4 renegade rituals. We keep it really simple in this one. And so we just tell them the 4 things we need them to do every day, and then post it, and even how to post it. And then, of course, our signature sign-off, be relentless, LFG, and a ritual tracker just to make it even easier. Then, of course, because it is a fitness journey, then to start, we need to know what their starting block is, their measurements, their macros, right? Download the app, add your location to the Renegade meetup so that people understand where each other are. But this is the starting blocks, right? And again, it's also a form of hazing. There's a couple of hoops to jump through first to get started. And so that's just like a touch of hazing. You got to do these things before you can even get started. So then we get into the identity shift, which we just have as the manifesto right here. You know, sometimes we play around with a credo, you know, like a doctrine. There's a lot of cool things we can do here, but we keep it really simple for this one. Wrote up this manifesto. You know, we believe it's a man's duty to be jacked and lean, successful and wealthy, disciplined and focused, able to delay gratification. You can get into this later. I don't want to read the whole thing, but it got some great feedback. And then, of course, we have an action step. So it's what we call our declaration. So not only do you have this manifesto, these words for them to kind of live by, but then you then need to take it one step further and get them to declare it for themselves. So Cialdini is big on this in terms of like how this works with persuasion. And so Skool makes it really easy that you can pin a post below. And so they can just click this and then you can sign off. And so you can see 31 people have done that, 45 likes. And so that is how we indoctrinate here. We've stripped a few things out. And it's always a work in progress, depending on how much indoctrination, how much activity we're seeing. We're seeing a fuck ton of activity in this one, so we're all good. It doesn't really matter. But those are the steps and how Skool makes it easy. So let's recap. Remember, you have to have a new identity. The whole thing needs to be an identity shift to get them to become this person, right? The manifesto is the emotion that teaches them who we are, what we're doing, what we're fighting for, the vision, right? All condensed into a piece of writing that they can rally behind. Funk even turned his into a video, which was super hot. You paint the desired result. You get them to say what that result is for themselves in their own words. You put up the guardrails with the rules and rituals of what is expected of them. And then you can kick them off and get them started on their journey. So don't just onboard your customers. You want to indoctrinate your customers, because that is how you get loyalty. That's how you get results. That's how you get people to actually get started. Keep moving through that commitment curve, right? Because as soon as they get going with it, it will become more innate. We don't have to worry about it so much. But in the beginning is excruciatingly painful to watch them not get started and then just bail, and then they like have a cancellation. They're like, it doesn't work for me. And it's like, you didn't do anything. So a good cult leader will manipulate human behavior because it is in their best interest and it is in your best interest. And so don't just onboard, indoctrinate. Peace.